welcome back everyone to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Kevin Horde here.
Lorenzo Fon here.
Hey, Lorenzo, you're back.
I am back. Oh my god, after like a month and a half being away or working or just overall busy with working or being away.
Yeah, away from the microphone for sure. We had an unexpected couple week hiatus. I apologize for that. Last week, Ralph from Kick Boss and Sig Neutron of Sig Neutron's Spewtron and the Sci-Fi Channel were willing to come in and help carry the load, so that was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a very cool idea on your part for sure. And I'm glad that happened. I still haven't listened to it myself yet because I only just watched Nomad Droids earlier today, right before I watched Darkness on Umbara. And then now that I have seen it, I can go back and listen and hear what you guys all thought of Nomad Droids. Also just for process?
I was going to say, do you want to talk about Nomad Droids a little bit?
Yeah, we'll just do a quick thing. We don't have to stay on it too long, but just to get my end on it. Again, not knowing what you guys said last week at all.
Well, here's what I was going to do. Before you give your thumbs up, thumbs down rating, I'm going to tell you that it was a split. It was 2-1. And I'm not going to tell you if it was what the up-downs were. And I'm not going to tell you who voted what. But you kind of give me your overall thoughts and, sticking points that you want to, and give me your thumbs up, thumbs down, and then I'll tell you if that evens the score or does not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, just for a quick 2-minute summary of my view on it, I really liked the C-3PO and R2-D2 centric episode. I like that they led the episode. That's kind of been something missing from this series. We've had it here and there before, but with them being such main characters in the original trilogy, there's definitely a lack of C-3PO and R2-D2. However, I just found this adventure just oddly structured and oddly clumsy as it went through and stole various literature or pop culture references between ripping off Gulliver's Travels and Wizard of Oz, to the point where it's every time they left a planet and ended up on a new one, I was just like, where are we going with this? Why is this happening? So I was never bored, but I was frustrated with that episode. So for me, it was a thumbs down. Unfortunately, if they had just stuck to one planet with the droids, I think I would have felt better about it, but the fact that it just kept cascading in this weird series of unfortunate events for C-3PO and R2-D2, it just made me lose interest really quick. Does that make sense?
I will tell you that you are definitely in agreement with somebody.
Okay.
So, yeah, Ralph gave this one a hard thumbs down. Me and Sig gave it thumbs up, man. So, we were a little more lighthearted about it. But, yeah, your criticisms pretty much ring true to what we talked about last week, where it's probably not the best episode ever, but it is, some parts of it are fun and some parts of it are a little problematic.
Right. Yeah,
Ralph hated this.
Oh, really?
Hated it.
Yeah, I didn't hate it, but it didn't keep my interest just because I could tell it was oh, we're off a planet, now we're doing another thing. So there was no solid through line for me to enjoy this episode, right? So
yeah. So hate may be a little bit of a strong word, but he definitely thought it was bad and worth probably skipping over, and told me he was mad at me several times. So
of all episodes to get him to watch Nomad Droids.
Yep.
That's just how the cookie crumbles for that one.
Hey, it was his idea, man.
Hey, that's cool. That's all cool. But man, yeah, I can't wait to hear that episode now and go back and listen to that one. But yeah, like I don't know how detailed or if anybody cares, but yeah, like I was in Vietnam for a couple of weeks. I did Comic-Con, and I was in where was I? So in order, I was in Park City, Utah a week for work. Then I did Comic-Con. Then I was in Vietnam for 2 weeks. Then I went back to San Diego for a week of work. So that's where I've been, and that's why I haven't even been able to listen to the episode or had like even watched any of these episodes before today of recording even. So
it's kind of like you were along on the ride with C-3PO and R2-D2, just dashing from planet to planet, and things were going on, and I'm not sure who was in control of your destiny at that point, but who knows?
But like now that we got Nomad droids out of the way, let's get to Darkness on Umbara, yeah?
So this is the 77th episode of the Clone Wars, Season 4, Episode 7. Production code is 325. So this one and the last one are like kind of deep into Season 3 as far as production goes, whatever that means. Original air date is October 28th, 2011. Again, the episode title is Darkness on Umbara. Written by Matt Michnovitz and directed by series regular Stuart Lee. So, fortune cookie for this one is the first step toward loyalty is trust.
I didn't think about this, honestly. I saw it and I was thinking about it for like half a second, and then I just got into the episode. Ooh.
So, I thought about it for like a half a second, and I was like, 1, this is Rex, and 2, I feel like they've used this one before. Like, it felt so familiar to me that I felt it was
there have been a lot of fortune cookies regarding A, loyalty, and B, trust, and some combination of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've gotten this exact quote, but I don't disagree that trust and loyalty is a heavy theme that keeps recurring in the fortune cookies.
And I think whenever loyalty pops up, we do tend to kind of lean toward Rex. So, that's what I'm going with. Anyway.
Rex makes sense, especially once we get into the episode. It'll make a lot more sense as well. I will say that this fortune cookie definitely goes along with this episode fairly well.
Yeah, it's almost a quote from the episode later, which is we've had one direct quote from the Star Wars universe, which was last week, which, as listeners would know, we decided was Silicious B. Crumb. Nice. The one that said that one. But yeah, this is almost, this could have been dialogue from this episode that was cut, which is okay. Well, then I'm going to retract my statement, and I'm not going to say Rex. I'm going to say this new character that we're introduced to.
Would
General
you apply this
Krell.
to him?
And yes, and I will explain why later.
Okay.
I'm going with Krell. Let's get into this thing so we can get to Krell and we can get to my reason why. Newsreel is,
it was super generic, honestly, to me,
of what's going on. StarWars.com has like these trivia tidbits, right? Or I think they call it like a trivia gallery. And one of the things that was like brought up on that is that Ahsoka and who's Luminar's Padawan?
Yes.
Why is Bar Safi are two of the pilots in like this battle that is shown during the newsreel. It's like if they call it a blink and you'll miss it moment, but I guess Dave Filoni wanted to have them included in the siege for one reason or another. I I guess because the Padawans are growing up a little bit and they're able to go and do some fighting on their own. I'm not really sure, but basically we see like a space battle, and big surprise, we have another blockade. The rebels are smashing through the separatist blockade. They're successful, and after that, you would think they're like headed down to the surface of the planet, but we don't. We just head inside the good guy Star Destroyer, and it's Obi-Wan and Anakin talking about what they're going to do when they get down to the planet. This was a little bit confusing to me. Did the Separatists just run away from the blockade? Like, just because usually, like, when you break the blockade, you're, like, balls to the wall, like, headed to the planet, right? But they seem to take the time to stop and strategize.
It was probably, like...
So
to me, it was probably, like, a first things first. Like, let's clear this out, then we'll figure out what's going on once we get to the planet, right?
Yeah, so what are the Separatists doing? It's like... Red Rover, we broke through your fucking line, and then we'll just stand here, and you're behind us, and
I think
you'll
they're all
just ignore
dead,
us at that
I
point?
guess? Or, like, they retreated to regroup at some point?
Where are they retreating to? They'd be retreating, like, down to the planet.
Yeah. Like,
right? And secondly... Okay, remind me to bring up this blockade again later. All right. Let's get past that. Obi-Wan, Anakin are talking about what's going on, and basically they're going to go down to the planet, and they're both going to come from different angles. I guess Anakin's squad has to like go in and secure the city or something, so that Obi-Wan can come in and land.
Something like that, yeah.
Is that what I'm gathering? Because Anakin makes the remark like, "Oh, I guess I got to do everything," and Obi-Wan's like, yeah, well, you volunteer for everything, so just shut up and go do it. So they all load onto separate lats, and the lats take off from the good guy Star Destroyers, and they head down to the planet, and we have, like, almost 6 solid minutes of action here, where it's lats and troopers and fighting, and they're not fighting droids, though. They're fighting the Umbarans, which are also apparently called shadow people. That's brought up by somebody, by one of the clones at some point in time. There's ATR, a whole shit ton of ATRTs, which are like the single person.
It's like the smaller walkers.
It's like an ATST Segway.
It's like, but there's like, they're not enclosed. They're just kind of like riding in top of an open shelled walker, I guess.
Yeah. It's like a walking Segway with blasters. It's the ones that can like run and jump and shit, right?
Yeah, hoppers.
Hoppers would be good.
I really liked this 6-minute segment. I found it really interesting. It was shot well. It was atmospheric. It was kind of a lot of things that I feel like the battle sequences were missing in pretty much every battle sequence we've seen up to this. And it was...
I don't disagree with you, and I'm totally not dissing this. This is like a super long pull to like get into the episode, because like often we have fortune cookie, newsreel, dialogue, action, and then we get into what's happening. And this is like an extended thing, right? And it keeps going and going and going, and it doesn't just like repeat itself. It's not monotonous, anything like that. It's like building, and you're moving through the planet, which is pretty cool. I will totally give it that. Like, the enemy that they're fighting is kind of ambiguous at this point.
Right.
I think they are called the enemy a couple of times. And then one of the troopers says, like, I guess this is after they actually land. And then there's, like, these sonic charge things that are going off. Like what they're up against is like next level shit that we haven't seen before, which is super cool. And it's shot in this like documentary style thing where like cameras are shaking and there's mud flying up all over the place and whatnot. But one of the troopers says that like his night vision isn't working, and then another trooper comments to him like, "That's why they're called the Shadow People." And I'm like, okay, are these Shadow People? Are they
Right.
like natives to Umbara? And this, like, so spoiler alert, they are. But it's a little bit confusing, like, who these people are.
And
okay?
They have, like, a curious look to them because they're wearing masks. And as we discover later, the air seems toxic to them as well on this planet. So things are a little confused there.
Yes.
But the reason I like this sequence, though, was because for the first time, we really got a good sense of battle from like an actual clone's perspective. We always saw too much of the enemy. I really liked this mystery of the enemy, just because it kind of put us in that like same like frantic, crazy, like unknown, hectic pace of war for these clones, whereas like before, like we get like the whole sequence establishing like who the enemies are or like what they're doing or what they want or why they're defending whatever's happening, right? But I kind of like that just seeing that the clones from their perspective just kind of get tossed into these various missions, and they might not get all the information that they need, right?
I feel like the little dialogue bit at the beginning between Obi-Wan and Anakin totally could have been skipped.
I don't disagree.
It could have been newsreel this and just like jump fucking straight into it, and it would have that would have been better for me. Like, I totally agree with you. This opening push totally builds into the episode. It gets you psyched. It gets you it gets you into the moment of what's going on. But starting with, war. Like, war is the first word of the newsreel. Like, war. This shit is happening. Oh, let's go over to Obi-Wan.
I don't disagree. I'm not going to lie, too.
For a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I kind of wish the whole episode was this style. Because once this section subsides and we get into the main pull of the episode, I'm not going to lie, I immediately became I'm not going to say I lost all interest, but I was very much less interested in the rest of the episode than I was this first act, for sure.
So the first act ends with one clone trooper getting eaten by.
I think it's a Sarlacc.
Question mark? Is this thing a Sarlacc?
Yeah, it seems like.
Or is it like?
I will say the
like
plant was the would be the only weird thing I found of this little sequence. The plant is weird, but yeah, I don't think it's a Sarlacc because I can't imagine there's like a full body of it hanging out underground. Which, have we discussed that Sarlaccs have bodies? Have we discussed that at all? Okay. Were you aware that Sarlaccs have bodies?
It hasn't come up yet. Only from what's the video game with Vader's apprentice in it?
Jedi.
You know which one I'm talking about?
No, now I'm just thinking of the new game coming out, Fallen Order. Shit. Force Unleashed? Is it? Force Unleashed. I
don't know. I'll come back to that. Yes,
right.
Force Unleashed. Only from the Force Unleashed.
Yeah, anyways, it definitely seems like a weird cousin of the Sarlacc in terms of like from a outside of this, like a meta, like creator standpoint, where it's somebody's like, why don't we have like a plant like our Sarlacc? And then they just like went off and like changed a few things so that's not exactly a Sarlacc. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And on Wikipedia, it's described as local wildlife. And then it literally says, as well as local wildlife, one of which, and then that's like another link, and that links to a thing called a Vixus. Yeah. So apparently it's
and then
it
gets killed with a thermal detonator, which I did think was fun. I did think that moment was fun, so... But yeah, so that concludes this section of action, which honestly, like I said, if all 22 minutes of this episode were just this style, where we just get through and I would love an episode that's like nearly dialogue-less, at least like in terms of pushing a story forward, right? Where it's like all visual, all action, like that would be so brave. But I agree with you. I think the episode starting with Anakin and Obi-Wan was them still kind of, the writers and the producers still just kind of concerned that the audience needs that little bit of hand-holding, right?
Yeah, this whole episode has like this weird jump like back and forth between like pushing things forward and then like pumping the brakes, and we got to stop and we got to talk about some stuff, because that's totally what happens. We meet this Vixus, gets blown up with a thermal detonator, and then everything's like calm for a little bit, where the troops and Anakin are kind of able to collect their thoughts and whatnot, and are 100% not under attack at this point.
Yes. So
and then
they also
is this when Krell shows
they call
up?
it an airstrike, and that's kind of the other way the action ends there, right? So there's
right. They call him an airstrike because there's an Umbaran like hiding behind a mushroom thing in the shadows that activates like this lightning bug scorpion thing that comes in and totally just
and
wreaks
nobody
havoc
can shoot
on all
it,
these
even though
clones,
one of
and
them has like one of those giant barrel gun
these
things.
guys out, and so then they're like, shit, we're under attack. They think the enemy is like looped around behind them, which I guess is kind of true, but it's like an attack bug thing, and so they call in an airstrike and like run to the other side, like run down a hill, and two Y-Wings come in and blast the shit out of the hill, and I think Rex or Fives, because honestly those are the only two clones that I could recognize in this episode, even though we do get a whole bunch of names of like other dudes, but every time there's like important dialogue, I just assume it's one or the other. So if it's not Rex, I think it's Fives. But one of them is like, yeah, that'll teach them. Them bastards with their ladybug scorpion things. And then again, everything's calm. So we had like a little frantic moment of attack from behind or whatever. And then Krell shows up. And I'm going to call a little bit of Filoni baloney here, because there was a lot of fighting just to get like this number of troopers on the ground with all their ATRTs and all the lats that were dropping off, and they were super lucky because like none of them got blown to bits, right? Yep. But Krell just like swoops in with his lat and lands like no problem, just chilling. And he promptly tells Anakin that he's going to take over, and Anakin needs to leave by order of the Chancellor.
It doesn't explain why.
Like, the Chancellor wants you back on Coruscant, so see you later. I'm taking over.
It's literally just to get the plot moving forward. Like,
yeah. And I
Right.
guess so, but the thing is,
But again, like I said, man,
the
it's
plot
like
was fucking
there's
moving
6 minutes
forward.
that are so good, and then they like get nervous and then start relying on their old like storytelling techniques of literally having to explain everything out, you know? But yeah, so anyways, Anakin gets out of there and
Right.
General Krell takes over. And then he gets introduced to Rex via Anakin, and Anakin's like, "Hey, you can trust this guy. He's really
Mm-hmm.
good." But we quickly find out that General Krell doesn't care, like at all. Oh, he's a massive dick. Um,
No, he's a dick. Like as soon as Anakin leaves, Krell's like, I'm a dick, and I'm gonna tell you what to do, and you guys
yeah,
are
like he does
nothing,
this weird thing where he starts
and
referring to
listen to
the
me,
clones
and
by like
things will be
their
good. Pretty
assignment,
much.
their assigned designations rather than the names they've chosen for themselves.
Yeah. So did you see this? You called it weird, and I guess it's out
Mm-hmm.
of character from like the generals that we have met along the way, because even like Plo Koon, like he's like Commander Wolf and whatnot, but um, I'm trying to think back to like Shakti in like the Rookies
Mm-hmm.
episode or whatever, not Rookies, but the one before that, where the one where they were actually training was like does I guess my question is, do the majority
No, I
of
think they all go
Jedi
by the names.
generals
I think it's
go
just
with
Krell.
the
I think it's
CT number
just Krell being
designation,
a dick.
or is this a
Sort of. I
okay?
mean,
Do you want to
what
talk
was he
about
like?
Krell's character design?
Now I'm just like losing my mind. Right.
He's a Dexter Jetster. He's a four-armed
Yeah,
Dexter Jetster dude.
he's definitely a lot
Who's
skinnier.
a dick.
Just
Um,
yeah, he's tall. He's tall. He has two dual-sided blades, which is cool though. But we only know that really because he uses them against the clones at some point, right? Like we don't really see him in battle. Like we
yes. So here shortly, like basically what he tells the clones that they need to do is listen to him, and he's like, all right, everybody march, like get in line, let's go. So then we do have kind of a series of like cut to walking, cut to walking, cut to walking, like interspersed with dialogue, that I don't think that we really need to cover 100%. But what happens is that like more bugs come in, and then like shots are fired all over the place. Krell literally jumps in and uses both of his double-bladed lightsabers to take out this giant flying electro bug thing that the clones can't seem to be able to defend themselves against. And this is where we see like the double-bladed lightsabers. At some point in time, we see him hanging on his belt, and I don't know if he has four of these or if they're like dual double-bladed
are there four
lightsabers or
hilts?
something, because there's like
Are
four
there four
hilts that
hilts?
are pointed
I don't think I
upwards.
noticed
So
that.
I don't
I
know if
didn't
they're
catch
like
that.
nunchuck style. What's up? I will have to snap like a screen capture or something, because you can see like
Mm-hmm.
the oval or the round shaped like emitting blade section. There is definitely a part in this
All right.
episode where you can
Interesting.
see his belt, and two on each side are pointed upward. So I don't know if they're like
Right.
a nunchuck style
But
thing that he
nunchuck
can
blades
like
would be
connect
awesome.
together. I don't know if it's like four separate ones or what's going on. Um, Nunchuck blades would be kind of awesome. I kind of assumed that it was like literally like a it's like double bladed where it
Mhm.
shoots both ends, but then there's also like another one attached to it, so we could have like two blades shooting out of one end.
Right.
You don't see that in this episode, so I don't know if that'll happen in the future or not.
Right.
But he's super pissed that he has to like help out the clones defending against some bugs, right? One thing for him I will say is that he's at this point he's at least leading the crew. Like, he's in front. He is the front dude in line, and then behind him is basically Rex and Fives and a couple other clones that we meet in this episode, and then it's kind of like everybody else. A question I have is, where are all the ATRTs?
They're around.
Are they just like pulling up the
see
rear?
One on occasion, every
like
now and then.
Super slow or something?
Kind of hanging around, roaming, Right. Well, a lot of them got blown up, right?
Because there was like hundreds at the beginning of the episode.
It was a very aggressive battle for those 6 minutes that we witnessed, right?
I guess I can feel that. Very true. Very true. There was casualties of war. Aplenty. After Krell jumps in and saves the day, he just immediately has to talk shit to all the clones, and he's like, does anybody else want to stop and play with the locals or the bugs or whatever? Nobody says anything, so he's like, yeah, I didn't think so. Now keep on moving. And so then it's just like more marching and more marching. There's a clone that says to Rex, and I'm guessing it's Fives, not sure, but he's like, man, we've been marching for like 12 hours. Like, when is this, when's he gonna relent, man? So Rex goes and talks to Krell, and he's like, hey, that ridge over there would be a great place for us to kind of stop and gather ourselves and take a little rest. This, of course, pisses off Krell, and they have to argue about the duty of the clones, which is basically do whatever the Jedi says, and his way is to fucking push hard and push long, because that's what's going to end up with victory in the end. And it's not the guy's responsibility to worry about resting. It's the responsibility of these clones to defend the Republic by any means necessary.
So back at the Jedi Temple, do you think Krell eats lunch alone?
The planet? I don't think that he sits down to eat lunch. I think he probably gets in the lunch line.
So he goes walking around,
gets his tray,
since
and
he has
like,
"Oh, you
slackers behind me, you better eat while we're walking
eating
to
with
the
his
next
other
fucking
hand
thing."
while still doing other work with the two lower arms or something like that. Yeah, that sounds like Krell. I'm not gonna lie. In my notes at this point of the episode, I had already written down that number one, Krell needs to die by the end of this episode because he was annoying me at this point. Not in a Jar Jar sort of way, but like I understood the purpose of being annoyed as a viewer, right? But also that I was really, really hoping that this episode ends with a mutiny. Like, I would love to see these clones rise up and just fucking turn against a shitty leader at some point. That's just spoilers ahead. That's not what happens, but at this point, I was really hoping Rex and Fives, and the only other name I remember is Hardcase. Somebody points out a Hardcase or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a Hardcase.
The only reason I remember Hardcase is because one of the clones is like, "You're a Hardcase, right?" And he's like, "That's what they call me," and then walks off. And I'm like,
start looking for him.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if we ever see or hear from
Where do you
Hardcase
think
ever
he went?
again.
He
But
probably
yeah, I'm
went to
like
like
you.
the end of
Like
the line. He's
I
like,
could
fuck
I
this
could
guy.
recognize Rex, but even Fives, I was like, okay, I can't tell if that's Fives or Hardcase. I don't know who we're talking to anymore. Uh-huh.
So, two things. One, you were just hoping for somebody to be like, Order 66! And like blast Krell, and everybody else is like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm not supposed to do that shit. That's what I'm getting out of your opinion right now. And two,
No.
did you notice, because I did not, that the helmet design has changed? So, you know the episode 2 helmets that the bottommost section is kind of a triangle from like nose down to chin, shall we say? And then
Yes.
episode 3 armor design has like the kind of barrel roll around the back of the neck that comes out to like 2 sausages, shall we say? So where we're at now, armor wise, and more specifically like helmet design, because the rest of the body armor pretty much stays the same, is kind of like a combination between those, where the T visor hasn't changed yet, but you kind of take the top half of an episode 2 helmet and the bottom half of an episode 3 helmet and stick them together, and that's what we're looking like. So that I got that info from the trivia gallery, right, on StarWars.com, and then I was like, holy shit, when did this happen? Because they were specifically talking about like Rex's helmet design, because this is the first time we see Rex with this helmet. But then I also did rewatch a little bit of last week's episode, Nomad Droids, and they have like the updated helmets in that. So then I'm thinking, did we just miss this? Has this been going on since like the beginning of season 4 or like late season 3? So if anybody out there knows like when the changeover happens,
so yeah,
I would be interested to know. And I know that's my job, but I failed. So what happens next in this episode? Because we don't get a rogue clone shouting Order 66 at Krell and taking him out.
It's absolute nonsense too.
Instead, we have Krell
changes
spouting
the
just like
plans
more
from
demands
what
to our clone troopers,
Anakin
right?
had assigned for the clones. So they're supposed to be doing more of like a sort of reconnaissance, is my understanding, or recon, or more of like a flanking of the capital sort of thing.
Yeah, I think reconnaissance is like a misleading word, because that implies like intel. More of like a clandestine mission,
like
of
a surprise attack sort of thing, right?
Surround and overtake, right? But no. Yeah, but no, what Krell wants to do is
right.
I actually found this funny, because it's something that we've bitched about before, where it's like, is this the only road on this fucking planet and people just have to line up and like march toward each other? But no, that's what Krell's like, no, we're going up the main street and we're going to walk towards the front door, and everybody's going to walk forward, nobody turn around, no matter what. This is the only way that we're going to complete this mission.
Yep. Just
any deviation from my plan is going to be failure.
It's just an open road. There's no cover.
Now,
Don't worry about that.
The one up front. I'll be somewhere in the middle.
Nobody will see you guys just marching down the main road with zero cover.
And he also says like, we're sending every troop that we have. This is how we'll overwhelm them. Like, we're sending everybody. He says we're not going to send a couple of sneaky guys around the outside to do like some ambush shit. Like, that's not going to work. We're using all of the troopers we have. We're sending them right up the pipe, right up the middle. This doesn't work out. But we do cut to more marching, and then some unfortunate trooper steps on a mine, and we get a Wilhelm scream, and then I think Rex is like, maybe we should do some mine sweeping. So they do that because they're kind of walking on like an elevated bridge thing. But yeah, either way, they start sweeping for mines. They're like, oh, there's one. Doesn't matter because they're ambushed. And the Umbarans come in and they're like surrounded and shooting from all sides.
It's around this point too that we see one of the helmets get on the Umbarans get cracked, but, and then we see some sort of gas leaking out from the inside of the suit.
Yes, which is why at the beginning of this episode I said it's confusing of who they're fucking fighting here. Because like one, I'm gonna go all the way back to to the blockade, right? What's the blockade for? Usually the blockade is to like keep aid out, right? The Separatists are keeping the Republic out because they're trying to help the planet. But in this case, it's just like a defense ring. It's not a blockade. You know? Like, you don't... maybe it's just the terminology that I'm getting hung up on. But every time that we've seen a blockade in the past, it's because you want to keep the good guys out from helping the planet. But in this case, they break through the blockade. Then there are no Separatists on planet. And then they're fighting the people on the planet.
Yeah.
So did the Umbarans also fight the Separatists? Like, do they just want nobody there? And then, like you said, the Shadow people have to wear these helmets that have like some sort of gas in them.
Yeah.
When the glass cracks, some gas leaks out, and that means that guy got dead. So at this point, I totally expected Rex or Fives or Hard Copy or Soft Shell or Pincher Crab or whatever these guys' fucking names are, to be like, aim for the face.
Yeah, that's like, what I thought was going to happen too. But
even just fucking hit them with your blasters, like crack their face screens. This is how we're going to defeat them. It doesn't. So it begs the question of, is the atmosphere of Umbara toxic to the Umbarans? If so, why can Anakin breathe, right, with no breathing apparatus? Because we have actually seen Umbarans before. Do you believe that?
Oh, God.
Okay, so one of them is from the Senate murders, like two-story arc. Okay. There was a guy, I don't remember his name, skeletal in face, very pale, gaunt looking, and you think that he's the guy that did it, but he's not, and I think he ends up murdered also. So he is Umbaran, and then also they're from the past as far as when things were released, but from the future as far as the story goes, from Revenge of the Sith. There is a pale-faced, bald woman named Sly Moore that is like an associate of Chancellor Palpatine. She is Umbara.
Right.
But so they can breathe the
on
same
their native
atmosphere
planet
that Anakin can breathe, but these people can't? Question mark. I don't know. Maybe they can. Maybe this dude just was like, oh,
I don't. Yeah, this bit I didn't understand at all. Yeah, it was confused. This part was confusing.
Run away. I'm not really
I'm not expecting like answers. Again, this is why like the first 6 minutes to me worked out really well. It worked out. It was better when we just got like a actual point of view, and the mysteries that were there can stay there. But then, yeah, like kind of once we get into these weird details, like things just started falling apart a little bit for me, for sure. But yeah.
Yeah. It feels to me like there were things that that wanted to be like established or wanted to be like hit points of this episode, but it was like touched upon, and then it's like I don't really know where to go from here, and then like you kind of back off from that a little bit, which is literally what happens in this episode. It's like shit happens, and then the clones back up. And Rex has a valid point. He's like, they're shooting at us from all directions except for behind us. So let's run back that way, and then maybe we can, stave off this attack, right? This, of course, pisses off Krell. And Krell's like, okay, I'm going to send the rest of the people in, which is completely contradictory to what he said to begin with, which is I'm going to send everybody in all at once, everyone, and not just a small group of clones.
Right.
So then he does that, and the Umbarans, they retreat. Rex is pleased because not everyone got dead, just some of them. But Krell comes up and he's like, how dare you fucking disobey me? Like, you were supposed to keep fucking marching forward. That's what I told you to do. No matter what, get shot, doesn't matter, keep walking forward. And he says something to the effect of, now our mission is lost. You sacrifice the sanctity of the Republic. And, he says that, the Umbarans have... the Umbarans have control over everything, right? But it seems like they had control of the city anyway, like the capital city. Like the clones for sure
that's kind of the whole mission.
But he's like, fucking great, now they are in control.
That was the end goal.
We have to fight against them.
Krell is...
sort of the same situation they're in.
The way Krell is written, it's like, I feel like they started with the overarching character bits and then forgot to dial into any actual real character trait. Does that make sense? It's it's all archetypes, right? Right. But there's no nuance to that.
Yes.
They're just no, we're good with authoritarian.
I think his character trait is authoritarian dick.
Yeah.
And there's he's the AD. ADSN, that's authoritarian dick sans nuance. So Krell gets all pissed and Five sticks up for Rex, and he's like, yeah, but sir, if it wasn't for Rex, everyone would have fucking died, not just half of the dudes would have died.
I didn't understand this move
saved
at
his
all.
platoon, and that's a good thing. And Krell's response?
I feel like there's a military tribunal that will need to be in the next episode based on these actions. I am too. I legitimately am as well.
I'm interested to see where we move forward from here. So I guess Five's rightly backs down. He's like, "You're right, sir." And you stand at attention and do the thing that, because clones are supposed to obey generals' orders, unquestionably or whatever. But he's also saving his neck, And at this point, then Rex sticks up for Fives and also calls bullshit on Krell, and he's like, we lost. He pulls his helmet off so that Krell can see his face, and he's like, no, sir, we lost men, not clones. Men, because that's what we are, men. We're not clones. And gives this kind of rousing speech. And in response to that, Krell gives this oration back to him, and he's like, oh, you have tenacity.
Yeah.
And loyalty. And this is where I think that he would drop that fortune cookie from the beginning of the episode. And I think that he would say the first step toward loyalty is trust. And, you have loyalty to your men, but you also must have loyalty toward me. And the first step toward loyalty is trust. And you need to trust me. Because at that point, he turns around and walks off. And Fives is basically like, man, he just gave you like a backhanded,
that's about it, isn't
fucking
it?
compliment. And the clones are all like, well, whatever, we're alive, good enough. And there's another incoming attack. And then, so they're on the offensive and defensive again, I suppose. And it ends with Rex and Fives kind of having a discussion about Krell. Did Krell have a change of heart? Is Krell going to continue to make us do this bullshit? And it's kind of like, it totally reminded me of the end of like a 1960s Batman episode. Like, will the Cape Crusader and Boy and Wonder make it through next week? What's gonna happen when Joker comes shits on their faces? Yep. Tune in next week, maybe. Same bat time, same Krell channel. It's kind of what I got on it. And that's the way the episode ends.
This is a strange episode.
Too loud music?
Strange episode.
We're done.
A 4-episode? Dear God.
So is it at this point, or is it next week that I should tell you that this is this is a 4-episode
I'm assuming that means Krell is not dying in the next episode either. Possibly.
Another 3 of these.
I'm still hoping for a mutiny. I need full mutiny from all on board. All the clones just need to band together, just yell mutiny, and then arrest Krell.
But no.
Right. Yeah, I honestly don't remember Krell being a character existing at all, honestly.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you I don't remember if that happens.
Yep.
I totally remember Krell, and if you remember back to the beginning of Season 4, when I absolutely hated fucking Sharkman Swimmy guy, the only thing that I remember about Sharkman Swimmy Guy before like going through this episode by episode was that I hated him. And the thing that I remembered about Krell is that I actually liked him. So I don't know if he has a change of heart or what's going on, moving forward. But to talk about Krell, like, I can understand what's happening here is that they're trying to introduce like the anti Obi-Wan and Anakin, the anti Big Three, right? He literally says, "I do things by the book. I'm not like the normal Jedi that you work with. I do things by the book." And I think that he thinks that. I don't know that it's necessarily 100% true. But I can imagine that at the beginning of this war, which has been going on for a couple of years now, because we started in 22 BBY, right? We're in 20 BBY, so we're at least 2.5 years in, something like that. And he's probably like a hardened general that has seen better outcome for the mission, doing things like, this is how we're going to do things, no matter the casualties. And he's not getting emotionally involved in with the clones You know, much as a separatist general can just send in endless amounts of droids and not worry about it. Like, literally, the droid army can line up and just march. And so long as there's a factory behind them pumping out droids at a faster rate than they're getting blown up, that line's not going to end. Now, the benefit that the clones have is that they are living beings with the ability to think. But then at the same time, Krell is discouraging that. So it's kind of counterintuitive to his approach to things. You would think that he would be rigid in his idea of how to attack whatever the situation was, but also be open to idea. But I'm guessing at this point, you know, he's lasted this long. Not all Jedi have, as we have seen. So he's probably thinking, you know, Daddy Forearms knows best.
Daddy Forearms. It's just still there's so much nuance that you just applied, but like I just don't see it, you know. Right.
I totally agree. I don't know if I see it either.
I
don't know if it's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if these are like, I don't know if something happens in the future that I don't know that I'm actually remembering. But I think like overall, I'm guessing they picked like the Dexter Jetster species because there was a lot of people that bitched about Dexter Jetster and they went in to make this dude like badass, which he is. To be honest, he is kind of badass. Like, his weaponry is badass, and being a Jedi that wields essentially 4 lightsabers at once is pretty intense. The voice actor, Dave Fenney, has a wonderful voice and puts on a wonderful performance.
Yeah, it is a cool voice, yeah. It's a good voice. It's a good performance. It's just the writing on the character itself, to me, that gets muddled and gets confused, and it's so large. Like it after last week's episode of taking on plot points and inspiration and just straight up homaging / copying Gulliver's Travels and Wizard of Oz. If we're gonna go this route with Krell, I almost could have used a lot more Full Metal Jacket, if anything.
I think we get there. I'll leave it at that. Well, I think when we get to the end of this 4-episode thing, maybe we should look back at what we think the inspiration was. So, but I totally agree with you. Last week's episode was a collage of homage, and this one to me kind of feels like more of like we got to do these things to set up something that we're doing in the future. So I don't know if you want to do any more speculation about like the next 3 episodes of this, or if you just want to push past what we've said and get to our final judgment and then go from there.
Yeah, let's just judge.
All right,
let's
away. Do it. What do you got here? You got thumbs up, thumbs down? Or are you going Dave Rave, Filoni Baloney?
I'm going to go ahead and give this a thumbs up. I think there's enough here that I still really enjoy. Again, those 6 minutes are darn good. And even though Krell, even though the story structure gets messy once Krell enters the picture, I'm still interested enough, right, to go along with what is being served here.
Okay.
I like Rex standing up for everybody. Rex is pretty strong here as a character. It's in moments like these that I become a big fan of Rex. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas before, like Rex stood out, but he didn't really do anything to earn my affection per se as a character. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like I know he's a fan favorite for sure, but up to this point, there was nothing about him that really stood out and made him like a very unique character versus any of the other clones that were doing things, right?
So D. Bradley Baker, and I don't know if he was speaking about this episode specifically or this like 4-part arc, said this was the hardest voice acting work that he's ever had to do.
Interesting.
Because I guess because there was the and I don't know, maybe I should save this for 3 weeks from now to see where kind of the clones rotate to by the end of this thing. He didn't say specifically like what exactly it was. I'll have to go back and look at this because maybe he did. But it was the most challenging bit of recording that he said he had to do for the Clone Wars was like either this episode or this arc, right?
Okay.
So
let's hold on to it and we'll figure it out as we go along. Yeah.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're gonna just start applying things that he may or may not have meant.
Okay, fair enough. And then also the other comment I had before I give you my thumbs up, thumbs down, kind of in response to what you were saying, is Dave Filoni kind of used this arc, and this would be the introduction to that, as like the next step of the Clone Troopers, because like we do see them in like Rookies and that like 3-part over 3 seasons thing that is. You have these newbies that are fresh clones. They meet 99. They go through training. They're shinies out in the world. They're they're learning as they go, and then all the kind of missions in between are developing them into having personalities and being individuals. And he said that's one of the things that the Clone Wars is about, is that the clones are not just clones, right? They're individuals, and this is where they start to take the stance against other people trying to impose like you're just clones on them. And all of that being said, and the things that you have said, I'm giving this a thumbs up as well. To me, it feels like the first part of something.
Right.
So it's almost hard to judge this episode on its own.
But all the same, like I think that last thing you just said is right. Like it feels like the first part of something, but it actually makes me I am now actually curious about the next part, right? Whereas say in season 1 when there was like an obvious cliffhanger, it just sometimes would be abrupt, and I was just like, what? Like why? Right? Like why do we need more of this? But in this, I can tell there is more story to tell.
I feel like that is almost the best compliment that you could give this episode.
Right. Like there is in fact more story to tell, and I don't feel unsatisfied by like there isn't a cliffhanger per se. It finds a natural breaking point, and it's good. I like that. I like the way that is told. I see no fault with. Again, yes, there's like once we get out of that 6-minute action sequence, it does kind of take a few moments for it to find its stride, but
yeah, it's got some speed bumps along the way.
Yeah,
it does start out strong, and then we got some speed bumps in kind of introducing us into the story, but yeah, like you said, I think it's going to be a good thing pushing forward, and when the Clone Wars is strong, it gets you to want to know what's happening next.
Absolutely.
When Star Wars in general is strong, it gets you to want to know what's happening next and what else is happening around. And I've said I don't know how many times, like, that's the nuts and bolts, is like, I want to know more. That's why I love Star Wars, because I always want to know more about whatever. And this is a story that does that for me.
Absolutely. Definitely. Same for me. So, yeah.
So perfect. So, speaking of what's happening next and wanting to know more, next week we have an episode called The General. So sequentially that comes next, and we're gonna see our next part of the Umbara arc. So in the meantime, if you want to reach out to us or share this with one of your friends, maybe send them over to notthenerds.com. We've got currently, I think what we have is our YouTube feed on there, which is a good way to experience this if you're not just downloading from iTunes or whatever else. And it's a great way to leave some comments, interact with us at that point. We got a couple other people that do help us out on the show, one of which is Kevin Warren. You can find him over on Twitter at They Call Me K-Dub. He was kind enough to do our hero pose, so kind of our not our logo, because these aren't the nerds you're looking for thing, but like the other one.
The cover art.
The cover art, shall we say. And then intro-outro music was provided by Lindsay. You can reach her via email at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. Lorenzo, you got anything else for this week?
No, man. I think we covered it.
Awesome. So again, next week is The General. And until then, I've been Kevin.
Lorenzo here.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.